Terrorism was first coined in the 1790s to refer to the terror used during the French Revolution by the revolutionaries against their opponents. The Jacobin party of Maximilien Robespierre carried out a reign of terror involving mass executions. Although terrorism in this usage implies an act of violence by a state against its domestic enemies, since the 20th century the term has been applied most frequently to violence aimed either directly or indirectly at governments in an effort to influence policy or topple an existing regime. Terror has been practiced by state and non-state actors throughout history and throughout the world. The ancient Greek historian Xenophon wrote of the effectiveness of psychological warfare against enemy populations. Roman emperors such as Tiberius used banishments, expropriation of property, and execution as means to discourage opposition to their rule. The most commonly cited example of early terror, however, is the activity of the Jewish zealots, often known as the Sicarii, who engaged in frequent attacks on fellow Hebrews suspected of collusion with the Roman authorities. The 20th century witnessed great changes in the use and practice of terror. The deadliest terrorist strikes to date were the September 11 attacks, in which suicide terrorists associated with the Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 commercial airplanes, crashing 2 of them in the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center complex in New York City and the third into the Pentagon building near Washington, D.C. The 4th plane crashed near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The crashes destroyed much of the World Trade Center complex and a large portion of one side of the Pentagon and killed more than 3,000 people. Terrorism appears to be an enduring feature of political life. Even prior to the September 11 attacks, there was widespread concern that terrorists might escalate their destructive power to vastly greater proportions by using weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear, biological, or chemical weapons. US President George Bush made a broad war against terrorism the centerpiece of US foreign policy at the beginning of the 21st century.
The intentions of terrorism are multifold. The basic objective of a terrorist or a terrorist group is to cause terror by destroying or removing the sense of security that the public enjoys. Over the past years, the world has witnessed a meteoric rise in the number of terrorist incidents. Experts attribute this rise to the sporadic instances of overpopulation in certain regions coupled with rising rates of unemployment. These factors play a major role in a large number of disillusioned youths joining these terrorist outfits. Other factors include the use of social media to spread their hateful and poisonous message. Political instability in countries like Iraq, Syria, Pakistan, Afghanistan, to name a few, have also provided these groups with safe havens to flourish and prosper. As stated earlier, there are various types of terrorism. These include political terrorism, financial terrorism, eco-terrorism, etc. Different terrorist groups propagate different end goals. For example, ISIS, also known as Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, carried out acts of terrorism in order to build an Islamic caliphate. The Taliban, which operates in Afghanistan, has over the years demanded for the complete withdrawal of all foreign troops from Afghanistan. Other groups like the Boko Haram carry out terrorist attacks in order to compel the country and the society to follow hardline Islamic laws. Therefore, in conclusion, we can state that the ultimate goal for a terrorist is to propagate their ideologies. The goal remains the same, the methods vary from group to group.
Funding is an essential key component for terror groups to operate in or out of India. These fundings often help terrorist organizations to get access to weapons, vehicles, and people whom they recruit. Terrorist funding is impacting India because the fund that goes to these terror groups help them to operate and run anti-India operations. The Indian currency notes, whether they are genuine or counterfeit, are an asset to terror groups that are active in India. The terrorist groups use many legal and illegal channels to route their funds. The terrorist groups also raise their own funds from donations given by the people from Pakistan. Hawala channels are an important source for business which helps terrorist groups with their funding. Hawala is identified as a means of money laundering that helps in avoiding taxes and other duties levied by the government. In order to curb their funding, demonetization was introduced by the Indian government, which would help them in tackling terrorism by rendering useless counterfeit currency notes, which was a part partly a success. But this won't be a long-term solution to India's problems with foreign-funded terrorist groups. A permanent solution is needed to stop these funding activities of terror groups, because as the funding for terrorist groups increases, it will make the terror groups more powerful than ever to conduct terrorist activities in the country.
Next, we want to speak about black money and how black money impacts the Indian society. Black money are the funds which are earned on the black market, wherein the income and other taxes have not been paid. The unaccounted money concealed from tax administration is called black money. So one of the main instruments in sustaining the black money ecosystem in India is jewelry. The gold, silver, and precious stones such as diamonds and jewelry are a popular form of investment in India, which even includes the rural household. Therefore, it acts like a darling for crooks, serving it as a parking space for black money. As these assets need not be shown in a person's income tax returns, the assets accumulated could be sold to buyers. Some of the few impacts of black money on the Indian society are: 1. Loss of revenue to the government. The increase and spread of black money has a serious impact on the economy as it results in the reduction of the government revenues. The black money is in such huge amount that it is said that a separate economy including only black money is running parallel to the current Indian economy. If only some part of the black money which was in circulation in the black market could be paid as taxes to the government, it would have benefited the Indian economy to a large extent. Second is corruption. The bribes which are given by the people to the bureaucrats, government officials, etc. for getting their work done go to the unaccounted books and is never shown as income, which adds more black money to the economy. Third and the last point is increased criminal activities in the society. The illegally earned or the black money usually gives rise to various illegal activities in society, and corruption is one of them. The duration of elections is also a time when the illegal use of black money could be seen. So these are the instrument and the impacts of black money market in the Indian market.
The process of changing conflict dynamics is entwined with supporting changes in people. It seems that there are several fundamental assumptions that can be made about working with violent conflict in societies. Sustainable peace cannot be achieved through the exercise of force alone. Effective dialogue must be an integral part of any peace process aimed at truly resolving the conflict. At some point, those involved need to agree the basic terms and conditions through which they will coexist. It is not possible to make peace by peaceful means without truly engaging with others across the conflict divide. While engagement is essential, the means through which engagement takes place can make the difference between fostering peaceful change versus further exacerbating conflict as well as injustice. In many cases, the engagement of large segments of the wider society in peace-building processes can give depth and durability to the changes needed to support sustainable peace. Even using the methods of power politics and military intervention, it is extremely difficult to impose peace on those who remain committed to achieving their objectives through violence. Sustainable peace processes are instead driven by the realization of the unsustainability of continued armed conflict. As the costs of conflict become increasingly painful, at least some elements within the leadership and the constituency may increasingly realize that they are unlikely to get what they want through unilateral action. As they understand that their future is interdependent with their opponents, the disputants are more likely to recognize the need to engage cooperatively with their opponents. This combined awareness of interdependence and that the fighting is ultimately unsustainable helps to commit leaders of conflict groups to the process of reaching a negotiated settlement and then to fulfill their commitments under the agreements.